I bought this woodworking jig called Dovetailer, and I found out it is not that easy to use. Like, just take it out of the box and start working with it as it seems. So, let's show a few simple tricks so you can easily use this jig to make dovetail joints on the router table. In another video, we will see how to work with this jig using a plunge router. First, tightening the knobs like this, one first and then the other, is not a good idea. We need to tighten both knobs at the same time. When you tighten them, the metallic U opens slightly. And if I tighten one more than the other one loosens. So, for both to stay tight, we have to tighten the two knobs at the same time. To use it on the router table, we need to attach the two knobs that go on the sides. I centered the board by eye. The jig comes with its dovetail bit with bearings. But how high should we set the bit? We turn the jig like this, and the inside of the board tells us how high we need to set the bit. Routing the first board is the easiest part, but which direction? The problem is that since I am looking from above, I lose the sense of the correct position of the wood and where to move it relative to the bit. But once you get that clear, you just rest the protrusions of the jig against the bearing on the bit to start shaping the tails of this woodworking joint. Notice how they come out rounded in front and flat on the back, because this jig is mostly meant for making half-blind dovetail joints. Alright, let's first try making a regular dovetail joint, using another board of the same thickness. Here comes a really interesting trick. What I care about is the height of the step, where the wood rests. So I prepared this panel with a small plank screwed on, which is exactly at the same height as that step. Through trial and error, with some washers and some bits of paper that I ended up not using, I was able to get the perfect height. You have to adjust that gray piece just right. I loosen the gray piece. And the flat side of the dovetail tails. I position it underneath like this. Lower the plate until it touches the board. And tighten it. Note that it has a scale on each side, but they're not in the metric system. And those scales don't start where the markings begin, but lower down, exactly at the height of the step I used as a reference. All right, I place the board in position, tightening both knobs just enough so it doesn't fall. Now the dovetail tails on the first board fit right there between the protrusions of the gray piece. That way the first board helps align the second one. I tighten both knobs at the same time. And this time we route with the board flat and parallel to the table's surface. The bit height is the same I used for the first board. Now it fits perfectly with the first one. And this side of the joint turns out great. But on the other side of the joint, you can see the rounded shape we gave the tails. That is why this jig is mainly for making half-blind dovetail joints. I am going to route this thicker board now to make a half-blind joint. Since the first board will be the same, I already have the gray piece adjusted. But I do have to adjust the position of the thick board. It is done the same way I did before. I align it with the first one, I tighten both knobs at the same time. And even though this board is thicker, the bit height remains the same. It looks like I did not root much, but it is just enough so the other piece fits. And that gives us a nice half-blind dovetail joint, which is also well centered. A perfect joint for making wooden drawers. And on the inside? Well, once I sand off those burrs, all you will see is a clean, perfect corner. In the next video, we will see how to use it with the plunge router, which, of course, has its own tricks too. Thanks for watching the video, and if you like my videos, subscribe and hit the bell.